If you have the hard drive, then fuck me. I said hard drive. How would I know there's a hard drive? Oops.
You're the one.
I'm sorry, Sheriff Nichols. Did you just say you want to go outside?
While hiding in the nursery, the exhausted Juliet dozes off and is transported back to her childhood through a vivid dream. She remembers a time after her brother's death when she lived with her mom and dad. One day, Hannah, Juliet's mom and a gifted surgeon, takes her to a farm within the silo. There, they meet a farmer and exchange a bottle of medication for a sick rabbit. Knowing that their actions are illegal, Hannah carefully places the rabbit in a box with air holes in it, and they take it back to their apartment. Once home, Hannah meticulously operates on the rabbit using an incredibly powerful magnifying device that she has ingeniously crafted by arranging several lenses in a specific order. This allows her to successfully patch up the rabbit's defective heart while Juliet watches in awe. With the success of her magnifier, Hannah reveals to Juliet that her plan is to use it to treat those in the silo who have heart problems and are in need of her help. Unfortunately, 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸 quickly discovers that Hannah has built an illegal magnifying device and sends raiders to search her home for it. Despite turning the apartment upside down, the raiders are unable to find the device. Meanwhile, a frightened Juliet watches from her room through a slightly open door. Simultaneously, Hannah and Pete argue, as she suspects that he has informed 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸 about the device. Pete strongly refutes this, saying that 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸 must have found out because they know every single thing that happens in the silo. Not wanting 𝐄𝐩𝐻𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸 to destroy her entire home, Hannah tells the raiders to stop. She then collects all the parts of the magnifier and assembles it in front of them. Despite being impressed by the device, the head of the raiders picks up a hammer and destroys it. This leaves Hannah and Juliet blaming Pete for all of this, as they still believe he's the one who informed 𝐄𝐩𝐻𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸. Despite her best efforts to remain optimistic after the loss of her son, the destruction of the magnifier leaves Hannah completely devastated, ultimately resulting in her losing all hope and ending her own life. In the present, Juliet wakes up and makes her way to her father's office. Once there, she attempts to access the hard drive using his computer. However, she's unable to do so as the drive seems to require a certain type of authorization, and she or he don't have it. Meanwhile, Sims pays Gloria a visit in her room. During their conversation, he threatens her with endless suffering if she refuses to answer his questions about Juliet's activities. However, he tells her that if she cooperates, he will provide her with medication that will allow her to live inside the majestic imaginations of the outside world that she loves so much. Left with no other choice, Gloria begins to answer his questions. Urgently, Billings calls Juliet through the radio, telling her to come to the sheriff's department. Upon arrival, she discovers that 𝐄𝐩𝐻𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸 has sent raiders to search the department. Juliet is instructed to empty her bag, but the raiders find nothing of interest. Unable to find what they're looking for, the raiders leave empty-handed. When Billings asks Juliet why the raiders were there, she reveals to him that Meadows isn't the one in control of the silo, and that she suspects Sims is the one pulling the strings. Billings, who has a thorough understanding of the pact, informs her that they can legally arrest Sims, since he sent his raiders to search their department without the necessary clearance from Meadows. Not wanting to waste time, Juliet and Billings arrive at 𝐄𝐩𝐻𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸 and confront Sims, informing him that he's under arrest. Despite Sims' warning that she will regret this, Juliet remains resolute and instructs Billings to handcuff and escort him to a cell within the sheriff's department. Seizing the opportunity of being alone in Sims' office, Juliet starts searching it for anything useful. While looking through the file cabinet, she discovers her mom's file. Inside, she learns that 𝐄𝐩𝐻𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸 learned about her mom's magnifier through the cameras they have installed inside the mirrors in their apartment. This realization makes Juliet understand that her dad didn't inform 𝐄𝐩𝐻𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐸 about her mom's activities, and that she's been wrongly blaming him all these years for something he hadn't done. Now knowing the truth, Juliet meets with her dad in the nursery. She tells him that she now understands he didn't betray her mom, and sincerely apologizes to him. The two are instantly overcome with emotion, and they share an affectionate embrace. Before leaving the nursery, Juliet retrieves the hard drive, as she had hidden it there, knowing that Judicial wasn't able to see her in that room. Meanwhile, at the sheriff's department, all the deputies are uncomfortable with Sims being locked in the cell there, as they know he's going to be released sooner or later, and will make them all pay for locking him up. While thinking of ways to access the hard drive, Juliet recalls that Lucas works in IT and might be able to help her. She meets with him and shows him the drive. After examining it, he informs her that this particular type can only be accessed through a computer with the necessary authorization, such as those in Judicial. Realizing that Martha might be able to help, Juliet decides to make her way down to Mechanical. While descending the stairs, she's approached by Bernard, who inquires about the situation. As Judicial has been searching the possessions of everyone traversing the stairs, Juliet responds by telling him that she's finally found something that could expose Judicial. Understanding the sensitivity of the situation, Bernard leads her to a secluded farm surrounded by tall crops, where they can talk without being overheard. Trusting Bernard, Juliet tells him that Sims is the one controlling Judicial, and that he's attempting to control everyone in the silo. Bernard assures Juliet that he believes her, but tells her that what she's saying still doesn't explain why Judicial would be searching everyone's possessions. Not wanting to reveal that she's carrying an illegal relic, Juliet simply shrugs, feigning ignorance. Adamant, Bernard persists, this time specifically asking if she perhaps has a hard drive that Judicial might be looking for. As soon as she hears him mention the hard drive, which he had no way of knowing about, Juliet deduces that Bernard is actually working with Judicial. Even more frightening, she eventually realizes that he's in fact the one who holds all the power within the silo, and that he has been deceiving her the entire time. Out of nowhere, Sims appears accompanied by a group of raiders. When Juliet tries to escape, Bernard orders Sims and his raiders to chase her. Despite her efforts to fight them, Juliet is overpowered and handcuffed. Bernard then summons Billings and informs him that Juliet has expressed her desire to leave the silo, with himself, Sims, and the raiders as witnesses. Desperately, Juliet tries to convince Billings that she never said she wanted to go outside, but he refuses to believe her, as according to the pact, once a person has made the request to go outside, it cannot be taken back, especially when there are several witnesses who claim that she made the request. While holding Juliet's wrist, the stress of the situation begins to take its toll on Billings, causing his syndrome to worsen and weakening his grip. Noticing this, Juliet shoves him away and sprints up the stairs of the silo. Knowing that the raiders will quickly catch her, she decides to take a leap of faith and jumps over the rails.